tea.
Better than Saturday.
Okay, good. I'm Chrissy, your Dr. Irwin. It's nice to meet you guys. I'm sorry it's on the tail end of a pretty stressful weekend. I was reading through the report and sort of his blood work report and things like that. But do you mind just in your words, just kind of fill me in on like how things happened and like what you saw and conversation that they had with you and things like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he is an indoor-outdoor cat.
Okay.
So Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, our neighbor found him underneath a covered table next to their house.
Okay.
And he had fallen onto his head. So her husband came to get me. I came over. She was holding him, and he's really unsteady. But he had gone out a couple hours prior to that, and he was fine. So I immediately brought him home. I was like, well, I'll monitor him for a little bit and just see. Maybe he's just like a little woozy, heat stroke, whatever the case might be. He continued to really not be that well. He kept falling over onto his side. So I was like, at first I thought it was seizures.
Yeah.
But he's never had a history of seizures that we know of. But we've also only had him for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
Because he adopted us. Let's just call that. So we did go. So he was at work. So my friends drove me to Duncan to meet up with him. By the time we got to him, the cat had stood up on my lap. He had peed in my lap, and by the time we got to him, he could walk again. So we're like, oh, that's weird.
Okay.
So we went home because whatever seemed to be happening seemed to have stopped.
Okay.
So we went home. The next morning, he couldn't walk again. That's when we went to Langford.
Okay.
So while we were in Langford, they're like, well, because he seemed to have a cluster of seizures, again, that's what I thought they were because of he couldn't get up. So I was like, and he seemed to be shaking a bit. But I don't know if he was shaking because he was trying to get up and he couldn't get up. So, but it wasn't like hard shaking.
Okay.
We've had a dog before in the past that has had actual
seizures.
seizures.
Very different.
It was different.
Okay.
But again, I don't know if seizures presents the same way with everyone.
Apparently, in school, you picture like seizures,
Yeah.
and in reality, it can look like so many different things.
Yeah.
The thing that most sounds like a potential seizure, from what you've told me so far, is that he peed on you when you were holding him, and that could be sort of a hallmark because they lose control of their bladder and bowels.
Yes.
But it was only that one time.
Twice. Once on the way back too.
Okay.
So what they said at Waves was that most likely neurological thing, brain cancer or something like that, caused his muscles to not be able to get him peeing, and walking again. He has an enlarged bladder, and so we were basically sent to like, okay, well, if you want to home euthanize him, then we'll do that.
But they didn't talk about like the potential for like a toxin or something like that, since he was perfectly fine, and then
because
he
he did
the
blood work,
we did
and
the
X-rays.
So and when they got the when they expressed his bladder, they tested it, no infection, and so we basically so I guess part of the prognosis was like there's a very, very small chance that maybe there's some soft tissue damage that could
soft tissue / nerve damage
could improve, but that's like bottom of the barrel, not likely at all. So we basically yesterday we had a celebration of life for him. Because he's kind of a neighborhood cat. So all the people in the neighborhood.
A lot of people love him. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is that earlier that day he pooped.
Yeah, he managed to poop because they taught us how to press on his bladder to get him to pee.
Yeah.
Taught us how to express his bladder, but now he can walk again.
Okay.
And it's taking me going in with 2 fingers underneath him, but then he leans into it and he can pee fine.
Okay.
So we're just
double checking.
Yeah.
Unsure if it's something that could be rehabilitatable.
Yeah, or maybe his bladder pressed up against the nerve, and which contributed to him not being able to walk before, and that would explain also after he pees, then he can suddenly like get up
Mhm.
onto his hind leg again.
It's not like he's walking great.
Mhm.
It's still like a bit
Well,
of a
did they
drunk
talk
in
to you
a walk.
about his potassium was really very low? Did they think it was because of the seizures, or did they talk
They
about
thought it was
that with
because
you?
it was the enlarged bladder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they also said that we could do an MRI, but an MRI might tell us nothing or an inoperable reason anyways.
Yeah.
So they're like,
They seem to be leaning in brain tumor.
yeah. Okay. And prior to all of this, so like my cat had a brain tumor, and her presenting signs were kind of nebulous. Like she would kind of just like stalk the room like in a circle. She did have a hard time peeing. Like I could see that she would need to pee. Her bladder would be big. I was not able to express it. Like she had too much tone. I couldn't get past that. And then, but she also couldn't seem to make herself be able to pee. Her attitude, in hindsight, I feel like maybe she had headache for a few months leading up to us catching on, because she would kind of hang out in not away from the family, but in a slightly different room. And she was certainly less friendly with the kitten that we had, and they had been quite good friends. And she would just be like a one-track mind. Either she'd be pacing or she would eat, but she was not like engaged with us. Like mentation wise, has he seemed pretty good with you?
yeah, up to that
When-
point.
Yeah, when we brought him home at first, he was what's this, gabapentin?
Yeah, he's on gabapentin.
So he
Yeah.
wasn't really that well
Yeah.
with us, but like once he like woke up and this and that,
You felt like you had your cat back a lot.
Yeah, he's been
he's
he
eating.
wants to eat,
He's if
wants
somebody
to
walks
drink.
in the kitchen, he's like, ooh,
Okay.
the same way he used to. So
Okay.
He
Just more wobbly.
seems
just
alert.
more wobbly. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know that
It wasn't right from cannot walk to walk. It was like he can. So at yesterday afternoon, we kind of had to steady his hips in place so he could walk. Today it's like
he got up on his own.
he
So I don't know if that's signs of improvement or we're just kidding ourselves.
Well, it's such a big, enormous decision, right? We can't take it back.
which is
he's
why we're
very
checking.
beloved. I'm just gonna slide the information straight. And it's one thing to be able to measure blood work and say your cat is in horrible kidney failure,
Yeah.
or to not have like a diagnosis.
He doesn't.
It's
love
just
the
a
vet.
Easy peasy, buddy. Make sure I got your tail.
Wait, is that his tail?
There you go. It's okay. It's slippery.
He
3.74 kilos. Come here, man.
he's always been a bit of a skinny cat.
Yeah.
People have
So
always
this
said
is not
he's
thinner
skinny.
than normal for him.
No, he's always been in or around like
He was here before.
Okay.
8 or 9 pounds. I feel
Okay.
like. His weight does vary depending on.
I just don't know if that's something look upable. 'Cause
Yeah, I
he
can
was
check.
over
Mm-hmm. I'm just checking your little. Apparently, I'm just trying to get really tangled with you. Let's fix that. So that's not fun. There you go.
Yeah, before he had his whatever happened on Saturday, like the night before, he's like climbing into our laps we're on the
Mr.
day
Social.
bed. He's like, come hang out with me.
And
Slapping our faces in the morning to
Oh yeah.
feed him.
Slap me awake at 4:30 in the morning.
And I
Like
might
as
have
he
missed
does.
this. Did they check his blood pressure at all?
I'm not sure.
I don't.
Okay, I'll look back through again. I know. We love you, buddy. What a blessing to have so many people that love you, right? If you can just help steady him just so he doesn't take a tumble. Does he have a hard time holding his head up? Being kind of weak, like his neck just hangs down.
No, I didn't notice that.
I think he's just smelling, to be honest.
And how much you feel like he has emptied quite a lot of urine?
We
Yeah.
did help him with that prior to us coming over at
Okay.
about 1 o'clock because they told us to do it about every 6 hours or so.
Okay.
They taught us how to express it
Yeah.
with him lying down, but we were kind of just trying to take a last walk through the
Yeah,
garden,
of course.
and I was just kind of holding him up,
Yeah.
and he just kind of leaned into it and
Yeah.
started peeing.
Yeah, if you didn't have any idea, it's hard sometimes to guess how much, but Was it a pretty goodly amount
Oh, it was,
that he peed?
it
Oh,
was
yeah.
good, yeah.
Because his bladder's still pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
They said it was an enlarged
we
bladder,
understand
like
that
very
it's an enlarged bladder. We understand, like you know, that it's a low chance, but
Yeah.
we didn't know if there's some kind of
Yeah.
if it's just the bladder, because
Yeah.
he pooped. So
Yeah.
then, like,
Poop is tricky because it'll usually just come out even without much voluntary.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it usually stack up and just kind of come out. I'm gonna take a listen. Be right back. Okay.
Yeah.
sure.
How hard is it to give him the gabapentin?
A little.
He does fuss a bit because
Okay.
it's medication.
Yeah. Oh, and he's a cat, right?
And he's
So,
a cat,
Yeah.
so you kind of have to like
Okay.
put
Is
the finger in his mouth, squeeze it, and
Okay.
then he's
So
like,
it's
nom, nom, nom,
liquid,
nom, nom.
liquid that they gave you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he's eating and drinking, like, he's pretty ravenous, actually. So.
His blood sugar was up a little and there was sugar in his urine, but I feel like that was more related to just stress, more so than like diabetes. You know. You gotta just check out all your parts. Try and help your mom and dad.
He just wants to get up and run away. I don't know.
Turn him just like look at this here. Thank you for helping me. Good job, man.
We actually saw him groom himself for the first time
Okay,
today. He
good.
actually sat back, lifted one of his hind legs, and started licking his
Okay,
butt.
good.
We haven't seen that in days.
Yeah, I probably would have cried a little right?
Yeah, I
to see
did.
some normalcy. Yeah, this is a stressful time for your family.
Not like under any illusions, but it's.
Well, sort of the easy things that we can treat, and I'll look to see if they had done blood pressure check, because high blood pressure can certainly cause some of these bizarre things, and it's treatable. The potassium certainly can cause muscle weakness, so some of this difficulty getting around and things like that. I don't think it would be likely to cause seizures. I'll just set them on the floor real quick and just see. You got them? Yeah, just by the table. I don't want you to get clobbered. But you know, I think if we were to try and keep going, it would be worthwhile maybe just to recheck his potassium and just see, is it at least holding steady? Has it come up a little bit better towards normal? Or is it continuing to go a lot low? Because if it goes much lower, we need potassium for our heart to beat, for our gut to work, all of that, because it helps to keep our muscles working.
We've been feeding him recently a little bit of pumpkin, like organic pumpkin, canned organic pumpkin with his regular pate food. And I think, if I recall, pumpkin has potassium.
Yeah, I would have to double check, but there's probably some in there, so that's good. And the fact that he's not had any more seizure episodes since Saturday?
No.
Okay. So that would just be one thing, like in terms of like, if we want to try and figure out like where are you and needing to make a decision, because if that potassium has gone lower, then he's going to be much sicker than a simple solution.
Right.
And then checking his blood pressure could be useful to know, like, if it's, did he have a stroke? And that's what caused this to happen.
That was the other thing.
And then if all of those things are normal, blood pressure is normal, he is improving in terms of the potassium levels, then you know, they can get toxoplasmosis, which is a parasitic infection that can impact the brain, or we could try him on prednisone and just see if it helps him to recover at all as well. And that would be sort of like a low-grade chemotherapy if it was like a brain tumor, like what happened with my cat. I do think that he is better than I expected coming into the room after having read the report and stuff like that.
Which is why we
That's
were
the thing. We were surprised about it
Yeah.
too.
But mentally, he is still pretty dull.
Could be because of the gabapentin, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
So-
he when I'm like we're walking around and like we're in the kitchen and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
he's on the day bed and he immediately perks up and wants to come down and like come to us
For food
or for company or
Okay.
whatever, because that's what he used to do all the time, is he would walk into the kitchen when we were making food because he's like, is there food for me?
You crack a can of tuna and he's
Okay.
there. So it's like immediately he wanted to leap off the bed, but
We stopped him from doing that.
Yeah. So June of last year, he had an abscess, and he
Yes.
was
He was fighting with something outside because he's an indoor-outdoor.
Like
We don't know if it was.
raccoon.
We don't know if it was another cat or a raccoon.
well,
But
not
that-
sure of his weight on that day.
That cleared itself.
Well, with some.
Well, yes, yeah, with meds.
Yeah, so 3.26 kilos. So it's actually he's up a little bit, I think.
Oh,
Could be the pee retention.
Yeah.
Yeah, but-
and his bladder is pretty
said
big.
I don't know if bladder can resolve itself either in terms of would he gain muscle back in
It's
tone?
more neurological control. Like, so if we just need to help his bladder to contract better, like if his potassium was in a way that we could know that his muscles could function,
Yeah.
then we can give him something to help get his bladder to empty. It's a medicine called Bethanocol. I'm from the States. Bethanocol got a little bit higher defined, so I think we have it here. I have to just double check. But it helps to get that muscle to contract and squeeze better. But it is.
Is it
And do you feel like
harmful
his-
for him?
The Bethanocol?
Yeah.
No, it's be okay. As long as he's not blocked. Like if he can pee it past pee, then the Bethanocol can help.
yeah.
Do you feel like his arms were strong all along, or were they weak too? Like, was it just his back legs? Like, could he have been hit or had some sort of spinal trauma?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's
I-
an out. He
his-
went. He was
Mhm.
outside.
He was using his front legs
When
he
you found
couldn't
him.
when he couldn't
Okay.
use his back legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't have any obvious signs of injury in terms like there was
Mhm.
nothing bleeding or
Right.
anything like that. I kind of assumed that he'd had peed a few times in his litter box
Mhm.
inside. I think that evening prior to this happening, so I just
Mhm.
kind of assumed that he'd gone out to pee because he does
Yeah.
that.
Apparently there was a little bit of blood in his urine.
Yeah, it was kind of pink.
Yes, they said it was.
Color.
It could be due to the inflammation of his bladder.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they did test it for,
A number of things.
for infection, and it came back
Yeah.
negative. So, I don't know.
So he is a bit of a conundrum, which is not what anybody wants to hear. Placement of his feet. When I was putting his feet, and all 4 feet he can place. Cranial nerves are pretty normal in terms of like measuring his response to light and touch on his face. There's not a lot of deficit that I see. So again, that makes brain stuff, unless it's further back, a little bit less likely. I do think maybe he's a little bit tender in his back, and then like that bladder is big, and so if he seems like each day he is making some strides and we're making some progress, do I think, oh my gosh, he's suffering so badly, you need to euthanize him right now?
That's what we're wondering.
My answer to that is no. The 2 parameters that could mean that maybe we are in more trouble than I think, that would be to recheck his potassium, just his electrolytes. We don't have to do a full chemistry again, but just recheck his electrolytes, and then maybe just get a blood pressure and just make sure that he didn't have a funny stroke event or something like that set us up for this too, because that can happen pretty fast. And I don't see that they did a blood pressure at Waves.
Okay.
So that's what I was scrolling through, just to double check that I hadn't missed that.
Yeah.
So those would be like the diagnostic things that I would consider to do. And then potassium high, low, normal would drive some therapeutic recommendation. I think that the gabapentin is fine to continue for at least a few more days. It's only Tuesday. I'm here till Friday. So we can kind of check base with each other each day. Like if you guys don't mind just giving me progress reports, I would love that.
Yeah.
So that I can make sure you're tucked in and doing okay. And then And then maybe I could give him some B vitamins under his skin that helps to nourish the nervous system and can help with recovery. And then I can look at the bladder medicine to see if we can't help him to pee a little. So that's where, but I would say let's make sure that his potassium, if it went from like 2.5 to 2, then he's in a pretty dangerous place. And that would either be hospitalization, or I would probably be more inclined to say maybe we should stop.
Okay.
Okay, does that sound reasonable?
Absolutely.
So let me just get you an estimate for everything. I'm very slow with the computer, so bear
Take your
with me.
time. We've got the day.
Yeah.
Any sort of medications or additional possible medications,
Mhm.
is there any sort of side effects that would be bad for his organs or anything?
So the gabapentin's very safe,
Yeah.
so there's no danger there. If we had to do like bethanocol or something, it's generally very well tolerated. Prednisone does run some risk in terms of like diabetes and things like that. But if it means that it gets like nervous system inflammation under control faster,
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily need prednisone for the rest of his life. But at
Prednisone
least
is a
it's like,
steroid, right? Okay.
like just to try and get him over the hump of things.
We just want to make sure that he's not going to suffer through anything
Correct.
else.
And I would need to know too, like how much trouble are you having with getting the medicine, because I don't want you fighting with your cat either. That's no fun.
It's only a little fight. It's the same thing as when we used to give him medication for when he like hurt himself. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't want it. Okay, fine.
Right.
We can trick him into eating it. It's
Okay.
not a problem. Just call it a treat. Make him do a trick first.
Well, we used to give him those pill pocket things if it's a pill.
Oh, he
He
demanded
eats-
pill pockets after he didn't need pills anymore.
Oh, they're good treats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the exams 126, to collect the blood would be 68, and to check his electrolytes would be about 43-ish. And then the blood pressure is about 91.
Great.
So
Yeah.
that's
Great.
kind of where I would start.
Okay.
And then we'll just do you have time just to hang out for that?
Yeah.
I'd rather you not go home and then
Absolutely.
he's in the car so
Yeah.
much, and then we can figure out what to do.
Yep.
Okay. All right. We'll get through this. No matter the path, I'm here to help you, and I just really appreciate how much you love him and how much your community loves him, and he matters very much. And so we'll try and figure out a good plan. Okay.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm sorry that this has been such a harrowing. It's stressful. So,
It's okay.
yeah. It's part of having them on our lives, but it doesn't make it better. So
Yeah, it's they must be super worth it, considering they keep breaking our hearts
Yeah.
over and over
Yeah.
again.
But they also make our hearts grow.
Absolutely.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Thank you.